Hello and welcome to another edition of EntheoRadio, where we talk about entheogens, consciousness, and shamanism for healing purposes. I'm here with the representative for the Church of the Sacred Synthesis, Jenna. Hi, welcome, Jenna Lake, to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being on, and I'm going to thank you probably after I read your bio for all the things that you do.
Awesome.
Once again, my name is Hugh T ALKEMI if you're just listening, but we also do video. Please check us out on YouTube and Patreon. Jenna Lake is an entrepreneur, photographer, author, educator, and leader in the spiritual community. Jenna has dedicated her time and energy to her education and the education of others through working with quantum healing and higher states of consciousness in the spiritual and sacred plant medicine worlds. She has certifications in yoga and breathwork and is a practitioner of QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique. She does Akashic readings, energy clearings, and guided meditation for her community and private clients. Jenna, along with her husband, Greg Lake, who's been on the show, are developing the EntheoConnect vision, along with the co-founding of the Church of the Sacred Synthesis, also known as Psilomethoxin. Her core mission is to guide everyone to become their own healer through passion and service to the worldwide spiritual community. Her first two books include the titles Messages from the Universe, A Guide to Being Human, and Pause, Take Ownership of Your Life. These are available online. And so is Jenna.
Yay.
Thank you here today in the show.
Thank you. That was a lot of words for saying I just like to do weird stuff and dive into anything that involves consciousness and weird. So
Yeah, it doesn't really think I don't really think any of that's that weird, because I've done this show for a long time, maybe 10, I think it's 13 years now, maybe 14. And we've had weird on the show, and none of your bio was weird. However, I bet you have some weird stories. And I guess we should start where I learned about you and your services. And then maybe we can rewind to your background as a veteran, because you're a veteran, right?
I am, yes.
So I joined the Church of Psilomethoxin, or Psilomethoxin.com, back in, I think it was October or November of 2022. And so I had just heard your name then and there. And yeah, so you guys as a church decided to really get the ball rolling and move forward with a bunch of legal things, including a legal version of magic mushroom powder, if not magic mushroom sacrament, with this new psilomethoxin compound that's on the internet right now, stewing and brewing in controversy.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give me some background about the last year of the Church of Sacred Synthesis, as you're calling it now?
Yeah, I really got the pleasure of taking kind of a front row and a side seat to everything, and just witnessing that. My husband, along with two other beautiful souls, Ian and Ben, and a few other founders, but those three really founded the church. And it was a little bit over a year ago that the Church of Sacred Synthesis was actually filed as an entity. I think that was like back in April of last year. So it's actually filed under the Church of Sacred Synthesis, but it was really in our community an entire year that we sat with the sacrament, that we took it ourselves, that we shared it to anyone who, especially people who were experienced with 5-MeO, they really wanted to get the 5-MeO practitioners' take on, what is this? What does it feel like to you? So just a lot of feedback within the community on safety, on efficacy, on just general effects with it for an entire year before we launched it, and we launched in September, we decided to offer it to everyone. And the driving force behind the launch was, two of our founders are veterans, and, myself included, but Ben and Ian, that's their passion. And I really, especially, being in the veteran community, Ben just got out of the military, and it's got to be heartbreaking to just see your friends, 44 a day, leave this plane when you have been working with these plant medicines, and if they had access to it, that their lives could be turned around. And so that was a driving force behind why we came out in September when we did. Before, if we talk about the country, before the science was reference sample and confirmed, that's why we started to offer it, was because we didn't feel like it was necessary to wait, because we had already tested it. We had already been working with it. We knew what it was doing for us. And so we wanted to share with those communities. And just the first few months, the church is not huge as far as the people behind it and operating it. There were like 6 or 7 of us. And so I always kind of laugh when people refer to us as the church, or like, what do you mean? It's just me. Like, it's just 5 of us. It's like, I'm the church. There's not a lot of us. And so just really the first 3 months, we didn't expect it to take off like it did. And so the first 3 months, we're learning how to work safely and logistically, and just keep up with everything. And then in January, we had the idea to throw, which Hugh came to, Entheogenesis. And so that took up a lot of time. This was our first big, I guess, birthing. The whole word Entheogenesis was the birthing of the entheogenic space, and at least personally for us. So that was, we birthed a baby in 3 months of coming out. So this year has just been nonstop. And it hasn't even been a year since since we've publicly launched a church, and it's just been beautiful and terrifying and sometimes stressful and overwhelming, but it's purposeful and it's worth it. And we are, here every single day just doing this work, and it never has crossed any of our minds to stop doing this, because we hear what the sacrament is doing for people every single day. We just started in May because, the first 3 months were logistics. The next 4 were like all dedicated to planning this event, and we had speakers and music. And so after the event, we were like, okay, now we have space to grow the church. And so my mission within the church is education and member benefits. And so Monday through Friday, we're teaching. We have classes online for our members to come. I do mindful Mondays, I do meditation, we do yoga, we do integration and recovery groups, and I have a book club and talk about ceremonies, and I do breathwork on Friday. So it's just a lot of personal involvement and teaching in the church that way. But the connections that we're making, the stories that we're hearing, make every single hardship and stress and challenge, it makes it worth it. And so we're at the point right now in our experience to where this is in service, like truly, truly in service to the people that we do. And if it were not for the people, we probably wouldn't still be doing it. So big old thank you to all of our members, and you too, Hugh, for that. So yeah, that's been my experience.
And I suppose as a church member, I might be a little biased in this interview, but I have really enjoyed the sacrament, and I've shared it pretty continuously. Oh, there's a new lower hand feature. Weird. I didn't know that it does that now. Okay, new Zoom. But I've shared it fairly continuously, safely with my friends in more microdosing capacity. And there's that people, because Facebook, social media, the internet, there's that big debate as to what it is. So I always try to include the controversy.
Yep.
And from my understanding, having conversations with you and being present with the church and at Entheogenesis and talking with Ian and Ben and Greg as friends, and then watching Martin, who was on the show way back in the day, and his whole process of taking it online and you do like being full disclosed. I don't know how anybody can really criticize it until they've had it, until they've gone through the sacramental experience. And I want to hats off to you for running it like a real church, because you're doing community outreach. You're not, you guys aren't just like, hey, let's just sell a bunch of, for antiquated terminology, drugs or, Eucharist or whatever. We're actually going to run this like a church, and you are. And I can't, like, I've been having the debates about this with friends, and they're like, well, ayahuasca here in Arizona is not legal. What will we do? How can we do that? And I'm like, well, it's terminology. Legal is a funny thing. Daime is ayahuasca that's been prayed over, and therefore it's an entheogen, it's a sacrament, and it's legal.
Yep.
So shall it be with this new substance, the sacrament? And I don't really know whether or not you guys are praying over it, but when I do ceremony, I pray over everything. I put intention into it. And so it really is Eucharist and or sacrament. It's the theos. That's the goal, right?
Yeah. And I'll speak a little bit about the controversy. And at first, like, I'm probably the world's biggest introvert. Like, I don't like conflict. And I am aware of that's my personal growth is to be able to stand in my truth, no matter what. And so that is, I wrote about it, and now I get to live it and really be tested with it. And
notice how it came in with the eclipses too.
yeah, for sure. And we're about to, there's a, I don't want to say, because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say, but there's a lot of cool stuff coming.
Don't say it.
But I'll just speak to skeptics, and that's okay. Like, no hate, and I guess what really saddened me from our own community was most of the naysayers were from people who have not tried the sacrament, and were from people who are not members of the church. And so I'm like, where did that come from? Like, what about us triggered you? What? And it's okay to be skeptical, and then we're all taught to trust science. That's been our science is the truth and the way, and if it doesn't say it, then it's not true. But we've forgotten about faith as well, and sometimes science has to catch up to what we already know. And so that's where we are in our truth, is like, I know this is not a psilocybin mushroom. We've created it from psilocybin mushrooms, but our process has created something new. Whether or not that is called psilomethoxin, we'll find out soon. That I promise you. But there is something else in there that is a different experience. And my biggest thing that nobody really is talking to is the tolerance effect.
Yeah.
With psilocybin, even if you microdose it, you have to do 2 days on, 3 days off, 3 days on, 2 days, because the buildup. Right? You have the diminishing effects. You don't have that with psilomethoxin. I've taken it every day for a week. Same amount, same effects. And so
people are telling me, and I feel like it's like ayahuasca essentially. Like, yeah, it's closer to DMT than psilocybin.
Yeah. And I think Ian was, please don't come for me, y'all. I am not a science person, but I know, like, the 1A and the 2A receptors, I believe the 1A receptor, which 5-MeO hits, has like a 4-hour reset. Please don't come for me. I just, that's what I heard. But that's why you can redose. with 5-MeO and stuff is the receptor that it's hitting. Oh, we just had a lot of thunder outside. The receptor that it's hitting has a shorter reset time than the psilocybin one and the LSD one, that's the 2A one. That takes a couple of days. And so for me, I was like, why are y'all even questioning if this is like not something new? Because like it's here, it's telling me it's new, different. And so, yeah, I just really, my hope, my true hope in all of this is that the next time something like this happens, because we're the pioneers in this, the next time something like this happens with anything where there's a question of faith and science, that it's met with curiosity instead of scorn. Like, oh, well, they didn't find it that way. Well, like, what's another way? Like, how else can you go? Well, let's, so just the curiosity factor and the recognition that this hasn't been done before. So, we're kind of blazing trails here, and whatever we have is not what was there before. So, yeah.
And so I'm in the, what else is possible? And it's fine that what we have is what we have, and it's unique and it's different, and we can give it whatever name we want, and we can create reality on our language. But what's the point when we can keep trailblazing and keep going? I mean, right now, one of the biggest things that happened since my friend who attended the integration circle with me, David Shadowwolf, who's been on this show, and he's a kind of a big deal down in South America for putting pyramids on the map in Google Earth and stuff. He's had mushrooms. He's known Terrence McKenna. He's taken microdoses with me since he got here last week. And I give him the sacrament. And he says, this is like ayahuasca. This is not mushrooms. This is not mushrooms. And he just knew right away. And so the funniest thing that he says to me, and I try to take it out of the morbid context, he's like, we were out hunting rattlesnakes because you need rattlesnake venom to do some weird stuff with mycology. And I'm weird, I guess. We're both weird. Didn't find any rattlesnakes. He's like, we really got to look at this video because he's a trucker too. I've been through Philadelphia, and I see the drugs that are on the street and the fentanyl and the problems with people doing drugs that they don't know what they are. And so he showed me some really morbid stuff about the drugs on the street in Philadelphia. And I guess you can search it if you really want to look at this sort of thing, but there's like some really crazy sections of Philadelphia where people are just on hard stuff, and it's confusing chemically. But he went on to explain how different countries like China are mass producing these other substances, and they're staying ahead of all of the old stuff, the old laws, and they're making brand new things that are hitting the human body in different ways and causing various problems, including like massive addiction and dysfunction, and people are dying. So I think it's really great that you've created two things: something that you've tested and in my assessment is safe, and it interrupts addiction, interrupts patterns, makes people less likely to use other substances. I think that's the real gold here. People are coming to me and they're like, psilocybin, I want a microdose, I want to take a macrodose. And I'm like, yes, that's a great idea because it's highly available. But when it comes to you being a meth addict or you being an addict of some kind, how can we truly interrupt? Because what you just talked about now, again, we don't have Ian on the show right now, but it does seem like this substance, this sacrament, provides a quicker, more regular interrupt, or whether it's biochemistry or somebody has just used and there's still residual circulation of a substance like fentanyl or methamphetamines in the body. And this is now going to bump the awareness off of that craving. So there's so much potential here.
Yeah. And I'm just, again, we have some incredible church members. Like, I don't want to give them away, but like top in their, like medical field and scientists, and like the caliber of people that recognize the need for this, the need for the unification of science and spirituality to treat the, I don't know if you've heard of Law of One, but the mind, body, spirit complex, recognizing that you can't treat one without having it affect the other. And if you just treat one and not the other too, it's all one organism. And I feel like that's what our sacrament allows people to do, especially with drug addiction. There's an interrupt in the mind, body, spirit complex. There's an interrupt energetically there where they're trying to fill maybe a spiritual wound with something physical. And our sacrament's like, no, we're gonna look at the spiritual side of this while I'm doing something physical to you, and we're gonna look at the root cause of this problem. Why? Why did you decide to take this? Where's the first time that you did this? What drove you? Let's dive into that. And it does it in a very gentle way.
Yeah, it's almost like the approach that, like, again, I'm moving back to like Daime and ayahuasca. Ayahuasca kind of takes this out of time. Why? So the sacrament feels very out of time, almost. Man, I mean, and psilocybin in the higher doses for sure, I can feel the time bendiness of it, especially when you get really keen wild mushrooms like the azurines with the baeocystine. But this does something to our relationship to power and time and the emotional body, and bringing us to present moment with how the past has given us what we're using as a building block for the next moment.
Absolutely. And that speaks in my mind of the 5-MeO parent, where we've kind of, in the creation of this, we've taken the psilocybin producing mushrooms and the 5-MeO, and like we've made a baby, and that baby has attributes of both parents, but more so. Hopefully our electricity doesn't go out. I'm in Florida, and we have the lightning storms here. But more so the 5-MeO quality, to where, I don't know if you've personally, and Martin Ball has said this too, and I've experienced this, 5-MeO, especially with psilomethoxin too, it kind of hijacks the process, right? In that hierarchical molecule, it takes over the energetics of stuff, and that is the time. That's great. That's source consciousness. And so we've got kind of a direct line to source consciousness with this, but on a very muted scale, to where it makes it manageable, and you can do like real-time integration with it, but you're still talking to something greater than yourself with it. And that's definitely the 5 energy and influence in there.
Yeah. And what I've noticed with working with it in the middle of a mushroom trip is that it kind of resets and re-guides the individual who's in the middle, and they kind of just come back to their physical space rather than being out in the ethers. And their physical space is such a, like, when you really connect to it, and you connect to your heartbeat and stuff like that, your breathing, it's kind of like a really reassuring energy. And so like this sacrament really reassures the journey worker, or the seeker, or the pilgrim. I like using pilgrim once in a while.
I like that word too. Yeah, it creates a box. It creates an overall box in which to work in and understand. And yeah, for myself, if I have worked with it with psilocybin, it's and I've been in the medicine space for quite a while, and worked with ayahuasca, and that's where I've did my deep healing. But integration after ayahuasca is like, could be a week, a month, a year, to really truly tap into the teachings. And now if I'm on a journey and I'm using psilomethoxin with it, I'm real-time learning. I'm real-time understanding. So there's not something big where I'm like, what was that? No, like, here's what this is. Let me explain this to you. Let me show this to you. So it creates like a little workbox of energy in the experience.
Yeah, it's been really clearing for me when I take it, and I haven't taken a really large dose yet. I'm looking forward to it. Tell us your story. Go back in time to how Jenna became involved with the military, what you did, and then from that point, was it that you sought something out of substances, or when did that come about?
Yeah, I've always, military family. My mom was in the Navy. My dad was, so just, that was what I grew up with and around, and we were not wealthy. And I really wanted to go to college. And so, thus began my military career so that I could get a GI Bill. And I was in the National Guard for 6 years. And I went to school full time, and I did two things. I did military intelligence, and I also did like computers for them, working for the National Guard that way. And that was a beautiful experience. It really, I still like to sleep late, so I can't say it made me a morning person, but it taught me drive. It gave me like that just, I'm a bulldog. If I have a project, I'm not going to stop until it's finished. And so it gave me that like finish, to keep going motivation. Because if I could do that, I could do anything. So if I took anything from the military, it was the knowledge that if I put my mind to something, it would get accomplished. And so just grateful for my military experience for that. And I got out because I wanted to be a mom. That was I think I've always known I wanted to be a mother. And every person that I talk to is like, yeah, you're a mom. So that's just my natural energy, is just mother. And 7 years old, I'm like, no, I'm gonna be a mom. So I did. And I have beautiful children, and got to live in Europe with them and travel the world. Just really had a nice break in life to where I got to be a mother. And then it was really after my daughter was born. I have two boys and a girl, and it was my daughter that sometimes works that way. With my boys, I love them, but my daughter was, I see a true reflection of myself, because that's another woman, and really made me think, like, what am I teaching my daughter? Who am I teaching my daughter to be? Like, what is this? Because she's going to mirror this. And it was really at that point, I didn't even know who I was. And so that kind of went down an existential crisis of, ooh, like, I've got some trauma that I have not recognized in my life, that I've been burying. And my father died, and I had a huge father wound that was never mended, because I didn't see him since I was 11. And then I had my daughter, and then my father died right after, and my whole world just kind of blew up without that, like, oh, like, I've got some work to do. And my marriage ended. And so I was just in this place of, what am I doing? And so ayahuasca just came to me in the funniest of ways. I was speaking to just someone I knew, and I didn't even drink, like, because my father was an alcoholic, and my mother pain pills. She's a nurse, and unfortunately, lots to do with pharmaceuticals. And so I was wary of even taking a Tylenol. Like, nothing was going in my body because of what I saw. And so even today, it's very hard to get me to take medicine. I'm like, no, I don't want it. I don't like feeling outside of my body.
Yeah, the whole allergies thing at Entheogenesis, that was the first time I took medicine in over a year.
Yeah, it's not my jam. Like, I'll do it if I have to, but if it's the pharmaceutical medication, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hope helped me out. I'm glad that Hope helped me out. I needed it.
Yeah, for sure. That Texas, I got really sunburned that day, and I didn't realize it either, but Texas weather is different. But yeah, ayahuasca, like, so I just didn't know what it was at all. Like, this was not something that, it just kind of hit me on the side of my head. I was talking with someone, they're like, yeah, and it was another veteran. And they were speaking about Shock to Awe, the movie. And so it's really funny how, like, the world just circles around, because this was before I knew Ian, and Ian was either in Shock to Awe or he was in like a very similar movie. But that was my first introduction to ayahuasca, was the veterans movie. And come to find out, like, now I'm helping to run a church with him. But and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm glad that there's an avenue for them and that they're getting help. And then I got this new job, and I sat down, or in 2 days later, this other girl got a job, same time, and she sat next to me in the cubicle. And for some reason, I turned to her, we were just talking, I was like, yeah, have you ever heard of ayahuasca? And she's like, yeah, I serve it. So like, it was just, it wanted to come to me. I was like, okay, I have to do it now. And that started work. You don't know what you don't know what you don't know. And I did not know a lot. And so just from that first experience to deep dive, it's been about 5 years of work, and still continuing the work, and realizing, it doesn't end. But through that, I did a lot of, I don't really like the word healed, because I don't think we're ever healed. I think we just know ourselves on deeper levels. And so it's just been the journey of me knowing myself, and knowing my triggers, and knowing my emotions, and knowing my boundaries, and knowing how I can move in life in a way that feels aligned, in a way that feels good to me.
Yeah.
And so from that journey, I met my husband now. And I'm just grateful. Like, it's been a ride. And it's never, none of this is anything that I asked for or expected, but I've always just been someone that's like, let's see where this goes. So like, here I am. I don't have goals, where I'm like, in 3 years, like I'm like, nah, I'm just, if it feels good, I'll go here. If it doesn't, I'll go here. And that's just kind of how I flow through life. And it's led to some pretty cool things.
Tell us the story. Would you grace us with the story that'll burn Greg's ears from the other room? I want to hear about how you met Greg.
Oh, yeah. That's actually, again, like it's all flow, and it's all just, it really in synchronicity with the universe. I had just, like, a year prior, and this was part of the healing work too. After my divorce, I got into some pretty toxic relationships, because everything mirrors you, right? And like, when you're bringing all this stuff up, that's what you're attracting too. So it's like a lot of work in that, and a lot of work and I kind of swore off anyone who was in the spiritual community, because realizing that anybody who's coming in the spiritual community, like, they're not here because they're here because they have some work to do, and they're here because like they've got some stuff working on.
That's what I say about the pagan community. I'm like, yeah, you are pagans because you used to be Christians.
Yeah. So I just had gotten to this point of like, I can't pick the right people. Like, this is not, I'm done. The universe doesn't want me to be in a relationship, like, at all. I was like, all right, let's just, I'm going to do me. It's me time, going around, and so I was at this ceremony with my best friend, and she had just met this guy. And it turns out he was Greg's business partner. And we just met him, and was talking to him, and they're like, they had mentioned Greg, and I was like, oh, I think I'm Facebook friends with him. But we never actually messaged, just added each other. And so I knew of him, but I didn't know him. And his name's Hector. Hector's like, you need to meet Greg. I'm like, just one of those, all right, sure. Didn't think anything of it. And then Greg messages me, and I was like, no. I'm like, no, we're going to do this the right way. Like all spiritual. I'm like, what's your sign? Because I'm like, I'm not doing another Gemini.
Gemini?
I can't. I've just never had luck with Geminis. But anyway, so yeah. And so it turns out, like, he lives an hour away from where I was born, and all of his signs are almost identical to mine. And I was like, okay, that's weird. So, years apart. And so I was like, okay, I'll talk to you. And we did. And then it just is history from there. I mean, it was like instant connection. So yeah, that was just another like divine alignment of me not saying that's what I wanted, but the universe was like, here you go. So, yeah.
I appreciate the two of you observing you kind of off and on camera. I see that there is a really great, beautiful, loving philos friendship there. And I'm also assuming you two have been through ceremony and there's agape, shared agape.
Oh yeah, we've probably all of them. We have at least sat one time in the entheogenic space. My husband, he just does really, he's so heart-centered. And the work that he does, you know, if you look him up, he's helped set up and establish like over 60 entheogenic churches across the country, which means that he knows a lot of entheogenic practitioners, and fortunately they just love him. And so we have the opportunity to go around and sit with and meet people from all across the US who are in this space. And that's another like side backseat that I get to see
Sidecar.
is just how big this movement is and how many people are a part of it, and the caliber of people that are coming to it. And yeah, that's just been a really cool story to watch as well. And he's oh, he did talk about it, so I can. He's working now with a couple of cases. You know, there's a case for in North Carolina that he's helping defense in an ayahuasca case, and there's a case coming up in Texas, and then there's a case in. So he's just so much behind the scenes that people don't see him do. He's doing, and he's doing it, donating his time, and he's doing it from a heart space because truly, like this is his life's work. Religious freedom, cognitive liberty. You know, this is his passion, and he's doing it because he sees, you know, my children, this is going to affect their lives. And that's why he's working so hard, not really because you're going to see immediate results now, because we're making waves and ripples that's going to push out, you know, 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to be the impact that causes the tsunami years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, big work beyond lifetime work, legacy work.
Yeah. You know, and we were laughing about this, but like, you know, anthropological people 100 years from now, and they're like, how did all this start? And it's like going to trace back to like 5 guys that are like doing it. He's going to be one of them. So that's just cool.
I hope that is true, and that they see you as a couple as I see you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just here to answer emails for him and help with scheduling, and sometimes when he gets a little bit stressed out, you know, help that. But I've got my own work and stuff to do as well. But it's just, yeah, it's all connected.
So speaking of, so I've got a couple of branch points in the conversation. You're gonna get to choose. We're gonna do like the old Goosebumps where you can go this way or you can go that way. I guess even now they have that on Netflix where you can choose this path or that way with like Bear Grylls and Wild Adventures. So would you like to talk about the added controversy that's not within the Church of Psilomethoxin and Sacred Synthesis? It's going around between MAPS and Symposium and all of these other psychedelic people. Are you privy to that? Or would you like to talk about some more things in your bio that are a lot more, as I would call them, maybe esoteric or spiritual or new age? Which direction do you want to go in? Psychedelics or new age?
I mean, I would love to talk about the MAPS and Symposia, but I stay out of that stuff. That's not really, I don't know if I can talk about it because I don't know about it. Like
it's definitely not high vibes. There's just like a whole bunch of social media drama, I guess.
Oh, yeah. And that's the one downside, I guess. Like I don't do social media very much. And I think that's why. Is it because there's a really positive aspect in sharing messages, but also anytime you get a group of humans together, there's going to be a lot of projections and a lot of just bull crap to deal with. And it's not my jam because it does get me in a mood and I'm like, that doesn't feel good. So yeah, sending love to them, but I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. May they all be keto masters and just
Yeah.
put each other in roll to safety.
Yeah. So
So
yeah, we can talk about esoteric stuff.
yeah, let's talk about the Akashic readings. I don't think I've had anyone talk about Akashic readings or anything like that in a long time on this show. What is that? Explain it all.
Yeah. So, I know a couple of other Akashic readers, and I've had a reading from them, and I really love how everyone has a different, it's kind of like light language, which I do channel, which I do work with in energetics. It's very specific to the person and their intention. But I mean, the Akasha, whatever you want to call it, it's a hall of knowledge. It's everything that was, is, and will be, and it's source. You're connected to time is an illusion. That whole thing of there is no time, there is no separation. So if I can connect my energetic body to that, I can tap into knowings that this physical body sometimes can't on its own, just trying to work within the physical realm. And so it's just connecting subconsciously to the superconscious. My work with the Akasha is really, really in the chakra system, seeing people's wounds, knowing like, how to move that and work that and what they have to work on and past stuff, and going with that. And there's a lot of light language involved. There's a lot of quantum theory healing. It just, if I don't, yeah. So for me, if I'm on an entheogenic journey, doesn't matter what it is, ayahuasca, mushrooms, psilomethoxin, or bufo, I see the energy webs. I see the connectedness of everything. And so I can play with them and like weave them and help move stuff for people, and like just send out a little love blanket to them and push it out. And so that's my big work, is being able to like weave the energetic lines that are around someone to either help with a realization, or help to see like a trigger or a wound, or just push and move energy for them. So that's my big Akashic work. But I've had people do readings for me that like talk to unicorns and can connect to like elves and fairies, and so it's so different, and that is real. That's just in my mind, that's just other dimensions of reality that we're able to see. Everything's stacked. Like, again, there is no separation. It's here that it's separated, that we've made it into matter, that we've made it look separated, but in reality, like we're all existing together at the same point, same time, same thing. It's just one big thought that's kind of like rippled out. And so, just accessing other dimensions, and there are higher intelligences in those dimensions and in those things that are aware of us and can connect to us much easier than we can connect to them. And so just connecting, a lot of the channeling, people talk about the Lemurians and the Actarians and like all of the Galactic Federation and, all of these 6D superconscious bodies of beings, that can come down and guide us and help us. And I just think it's fascinating.
Ooh, what else is possible? So I'm going to ask a little bit of a more outlandish question. So what happens if people are involved with this this sort of stuff, this light language, this energy clearing stuff? Like how do you discern in there? How do you know it's good energy, bad energy? And then speak to the topic of entities, because that's such a hot topic right now within this psychedelic entheogenic space. We're used to it in the shamanic space, but everyone's searching it within the psychedelic space. And they've been aware of it because Terence McKenna made us aware of it very succinctly with the whole machine elves in DMT for a while now. But like, have you had encounters? And how do you know good, bad? And how do you know like light language is supportive versus, you know, a demonic channel or something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It got really dark in my house because it's like lightning,
Ooh,
thunder.
ooh.
Ooh. um, um, it's groundedness into your body. So this is where a lot of people make the mistake of working on oneself. First and foremost, you have to work on your humanness before you can connect to anything that's outside of your humanness. And so we have people, you know, they'll go into an ayahuasca ceremony or a healing ceremony, and like all of their channels will just be blown wide open. And without the proper guidance and ceremony and cleansing and like protective space in that, that's where a lot of things can get in that maybe they're not ready for. For myself, I have not had that experience just because I knew, and maybe it's because I'm an earth sign too, and I'm just super grounded. And that's my thing, is just being connected in my body and feeling my body. But it's having a tether to who you are first and foremost before you try like the upper chakras. You know, you got to work on the root and the sacral and the solar plexus. Those have to be exactly. You have to have that established. As far as I know who I am, I am in control of my emotions. I know when emotion is not mine, and I am able to navigate that emotional stability and control. And then I have an understanding of my own power. I have an understanding of who I am and what I'm capable of, and can stand in my power and very confidently. So those three are what has to be really, really, really worked on before we get into the third eye and the crown and the connection, because that's where the outside stuff happens, is in these upper ones. But if we're in the upper ones with no tether, what are you allowing in? You don't know. Or you'll know too late when you're acting out of control. When you are, like for myself, this is voluntary. I could turn it off and on. This isn't something that comes to me and to where I feel like if I didn't want this to happen, it wouldn't. I think that that's a really big sign. And also, what is it manifesting in your life? You know, what is it? What are the fruits of this? Are you causing chaos? Is it causing chaos? Really discernment in that, you know, how, when this thing comes out of me, is it of love or is it of fear? And I don't really, sometimes it's just personal fear. Sometimes the entity is good, but you're afraid. Mm-hmm. And so there is a lot of that too, of just being ready and timing, because even if something good is trying to come through you, if it's making you afraid of your own abilities and you're running from it or thinking it's bad, then that's the same thing, and you should not do it, because then that, you know, is this a confidence or is this born out of control? And so I think that that's a big thing with discernment. You always too, you know, it's like a subconscious thing now, but I always picture a pyramid of light around me, like a white pyramid of light before I do anything. It's surrounding me. This is my own energy. This is my own space, and nothing can come in that means me harm. Nothing that can come in here that I don't want to, that doesn't want to like be for my highest good. And it's always for your highest good. Sometimes your highest good is scary too. So you gotta be like ready for that as well. But yeah, it's doing it intentionally, and knowing what it is that you're allowing in, and having a safe space to do it in too, I feel, you know, and that's the thing is, my husband's had a lot of experience with entities. Mine are more, I've had experience with them, but they've all been really fun. Like even in ayahuasca, I was like taken through this like hall of mirrors where I saw all of these guys and I'm like, I know them. And she was like, yeah, it's because I like you. Like, let's go play. And so it's always just been this really gentle, fun, like, I know you, I love you. Like this, it's a remembrance for me when they come of wherever I came from, whatever I was in a past life, whatever that is. These are my friends.
Yeah.
And you feel that like deep down. There's never been fear. My husband has had a lot a lot of entity encounters, some good, some bad. And I can't say to the cause of that, except some of that is mental as well. If you are not mentally in a place of love, if your vibration is not where it needs to be, then that can allow some things in there as well. So it's mindset and training, and that really is where the bottom 3 chakras come into play. Is that security, safety, mindset. I'm in control. This is my body. Nothing's coming in it that I don't want. But if you don't have that, then yeah, there could be some issues. And I can't say of whether it's a human issue of fear or if it's a negative entity coming into control. Either way, it's not good. So you have to take sovereignty. That's how you get back control, is sovereignty. It's all here in this body. There is nothing outside of ourselves. And that's the big myth, is that we have to have something outside in order to fix what's inside. And if inside something is happening, I have the power, because this is my vessel, to say, nope, you don't belong here. I don't want this. You are not allowed.
Yeah. It is your universe.
Yeah. So I just, thunder. So I just think, if anyone is struggling through that, number 1, work on your bottom 3 chakras. And number 2, recognize that the fear is okay. Like, we all have fear sometimes, but to push through that and to claim your sovereignty as a person. And there's people that can help. It's not a bad thing to ask for help and ask for a guide on how to do it, because sometimes we don't know how to do something the first time. And so we have teachers that can teach us how. But just claiming sovereignty over yourself and your space. And, there's always rituals, but I have a friend, my best friend who I used to live with. She did a lot of candle work, very specific candle work. And, even she would say the candle is not necessary. It's actually all in the mind, but the candle helps focus. So if you need rituals to help focus your energy at first, that's okay too. So do whatever causes you to be intentional in your protection and in your space.
Yes, absolutely. That's like sage, for example. Aren't you going to burn sage, Hugh? When are you going to burn sage? I was like, do we really need it? Like, I mean, and do we really need a lot of it? It's just a symbol. Boom, there it is. You can smell it. We don't even have to light it. And there it is for me, intentionally clear.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful stuff. Great. I like to say, and so it is, aho, all my relations, because I'm in agreement with you.
Awesome.
I want to speak to energy clearing. Like, give us a few ideas, techniques, methodologies, and then I want to see if you remember a story from Entheogenesis where there was an energy clearing that Ben participated in, and I kind of have to hats off to him, because I was present for it, and that was tricky, and I didn't expect him to step up like that.
Oh, yeah. No, you have to tell me that, because I don't think I was there or heard this story. Energy clearing can be many things. It could just be going outside and grounding. It can be taking a bath in salt water. It could just be washing yourself with water. That's a very good thing. It could be screaming. It could be dancing. It could be breath work. It's whatever inside of you feels stuck. It's the way to move it. And so a lot of times that's somatic practices, or like a crystal. I mean, it's mental, but it's something to help you recognize what it is that you have to move. In energy work, again, like with the weaving of the things, I can help pull that out, or I can help bring it to an awareness so that the person, it's never me doing it. It's just me giving them awareness so that they themselves, like, it's never, I'm the space holder, right? And so it's always you in your own power doing this, but it can look any way it needs to. And there are very talented individuals that have been doing this for many, many years that can just go to you and like tap you on your forehead and boom, like it's out, because they know how to manipulate the energy that's around you. Like they've been very focused and they can pinpoint where it is and boop, it's gone. And I admire those people so much. You know, we had at Entheogenesis, we had one of our cameraman, his name's Ralph, and he is magic. And that's what he does too. He'll just come up to you and he'll put his hands on your shoulder and he'll call in light beings and he'll call in the goddess and he'll just say, help us move, you know, like help us here. We need your assistance. And you just take a deep breath and push it out. And that's all you needed. So there's so many different ways to clear energy that it's, whatever works for you.
Beautiful. Yeah. What do you think about cord cutting?
I think, again, it's mental. You can have cord cutting ceremonies. And I've seen this both ways. Like I've seen someone do like 20 cord cutting ceremonies for the same person. But if you're still holding on to them in your mind and in your heart, you got to mean it.
Yeah.
You know? And again, it's, are you ready to let that go? Are you ready? Truly, truly, truly ready? Because a lot of times, most of us are not when we first end something, when we first separate from someone. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of emotions that have to be moved through before we're ready. And it's the grace for that. You know, if something just ends and you still have so much to process, that's okay. You don't, the cord's not going to be cut until that's processed and let go. So I feel like they're just, you can still be attached to someone, but still have very strong boundaries of not speaking to them. And I feel like that's a cord cutting in and of itself, is allowing the emotions to still be there and not thinking that they should be gone. Because they're going to take their time and they're going to leave when they want, and then they're going to come back at the weird times and you have to work through them again. It's just this cycle of being human, but it's loving yourself. I think the cord cutting is just loving yourself enough to say, this is not healthy for me. I'm not going to contact them. I'm going to separate for my own mental health, and it's sticking with that. And sometimes that takes 5 or 6 tries. And that's okay.
Yeah. I want to share the story. Maybe you were present, maybe you weren't. You said you don't recollect it. But it was at Entheogenesis. I think it was on the day after the recovery day, where it's not really open to the public. There was a lot of shouting going on by the pool. And so I was like, oh, maybe that's something I should wander over and check out. And so I kind of observed at a distance while there was a gentleman who was just moving so much energy. And it was like fist ball rage kind of energy. It was projected very positively, but he was using swear words and all this super loud, just like roar. And Ben got in there and just really impressed me. He started just like, he grounded the person, did like this fat grounding group hug, and I participated in that. But then he just like pulled all the energy down and out, and he was like clean. And I'm like, where did Ben learn that? Because it wasn't just like some new age thing where he's just like clean. It worked. It brought the guy's energy to a grounded place, and it grounded all that just intensity, that fire. And the guy just chilled out right after that. And I was like, well, Ben's got some magic. Where did he learn that? Did you hear any of that?
I heard of it. Yes. I think I was on the other side of the house. I think we heard the screaming, but I was like, I'm too tired to get it. I was exhausted. So I missed that, but I heard about it. Yeah, Ben is a Jedi, you know, he works with Ian and they heal veterans, and that's his space. That energy, you know, the veteran, because it is intense. You know, that these are men, these are men that have been through hell, and we can't, even myself as a veteran, I haven't been through what they have. You know, I was lucky in that sense. I got deployed, but I worked on computers. So, you know, I was in that side of it.
Firefights.
Yeah. But you know, so Ben just works with them all the time. And I'm sure this has been a practice where the medicine has taught him, you know, because he serves other medicines as well. And so this has taught him in that space of how to work with it, because that's, the sacraments are our teachers. You know, we can do all of these other things, but if you just sit, even if you're, especially if you're in an experience and you're going through a challenging time, ask, like, how do I move through this? You'll be shown. Yeah. And so a lot of it is not human taught, it's plant taught. And my husband and myself too, like, we're taught how to build altars, you know, all the time, like the secret geometry and the geometrics, and you know, how to create through that way. And yeah, they have more answers than we do.
Yeah, and they're somehow more cohesive through the different lifetimes that they have. They're sharing. I want to say they're sharing kind of a hive mind, if you will, or an ancestral mind from their development all the way to where they are now. And then some of them are cultivars, like we're caretaking them, and so they, like dogs, take on the characteristics of their trainers or their masters.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, these are things that were on like asteroids for
right.
Like our planet was like, these are ancient. Yeah. I heard somewhere that they're actually working with us because they want to get back to outer space, so they're helping us like evolve so they can they can go back there.
Like that theory. Yeah, that touches on some of Terence McKenna's theories. The thing I talked about in Entheogenesis was just like people are looking at me with all the different faces. They're like, this is just gross. Why am I here? Oh my gosh, this is life-changing. And I'm not ready for that. And it touches on that subject of the intergalactic nature of mushrooms and what we're doing here, and how and the synthesis and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, they are, mushrooms have been my greatest teacher. Ayahuasca has been my biggest experience.
I'm back. Oh no. Oh no, the thunder and the lightning got you. Come back. Please come back. Let's see, thumbs up. Prayer hands. Clapping. Ladies and gentlemen, we have interdimensional liftoff. It seems that Jenna may come back, but you just have Hugh T ALKEMI speaking with you now, and the lightning storm in Florida might have taken her internet connection out. So we are going to pause the recording, and maybe she'll come back. Go. Hey everybody, we're back with Jenna Lake, finishing up our last episode, and she just had a lightning storm, and we got the power back on, and we're excited to hear what she had to say about mushrooms and how they took her far out. Do you remember what you were saying?
Yeah, we're talking about the intergalactic nature of mushrooms, I believe, and them using humans to travel the galaxy again. and them trying to help us evolve. I know there's a big theory there, like the stoned ape theory, that, you know, that's how we became who we are, is because the mycelium, you know, helped us evolve and helped our brains grow and evolve. And maybe that's the entire reason why we're becoming a species, is because they just want to get back to outer space.
Seems like a reasonable theory to me.
Yeah.
I like to tell people that we're on the far end of the kombucha culture, where the universe is a jar and there's a SCOBY over here, and we're way over here, and we're trying to get back into communication with the mother.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I've never, in my journeys with, I have not done like I've, you know, 5 to 7 grams is my normal dose. I am not Kalindi Lee, who's the 20-gram journeyer. I know people who are. My husband is one of them. And I know that is known to take people into other portals and other dimensions and travel space and time. Mine's been more, I get to see the universe. It really understand. I think they've taught me understanding the universe and how it works and how energy works, and playing with that. So that's been my biggest teaching with mushrooms is, you know, ayahuasca. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Ayahuasca's like blown my mind, and I became universe and did a lot of shadow work, but mushrooms really help with the intricacies of the in-between and making sense of things and putting it into practical use for me. And so that's the way that they have been my greatest teacher to continue to work with, like on a regular basis.
So now that you have that in your background, you probably have had mushroom experiences before being introduced to psilomethoxin or the sacrament. How does that change? How does that, what's new about that interaction, that relationship?
It's less in the body. So I've had a few, like a lot of it was just small or personal work. I've been to a few mushroom ceremonies, and some of them and honestly, maybe some of them were because one of them was from a Bufo practitioner who also did mushroom ceremonies, and maybe this was their secret as well. Maybe they were also creating psilomethoxin, but there was nothing quite like that yet. But it was my husband's computer. Nothing quite like that. So it was more an in the body experience with the mushrooms. I don't know how to stop that.
Oh, we can't really hear it. It's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Previous mushrooms journeys, I was very in the emotion. I was very in the energetic. Like we dove inside and sat with that and felt through it, and really did a lot of movements. Like they've taught me movements and mudras and working in that aspect. But when even in combination, when the psilocybin is in combination with psilomethoxin or even psilomethoxin itself, it felt more like a working Bufo space. It didn't feel like I was going in. It felt like I was connecting out in there into a greater understanding. So I think that's been the biggest difference of regular psilocybin journeys and psilocybin and psilomethoxin by itself and psilomethoxin with psilocybin is it's not so much, I'm still looking at traumas, you know, I'm still looking at things, but it's I think one of the coolest things that happened in my first dive in with psilocybin and psilomethoxin was before I'd have to like feel through the trauma and like be with it and like, oh, and like move through it. And when I did this other one, I was able to like just go in and scoop it out energetically and look at it and observe it, and then vibrate it to a different frequency, the frequency of love, and let it go. And that had never happened before in any experience. And
got more lucidity. It's like it was more of a lucid dream visionary state.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was more like I was able to, and this is why I say working Bufo space or like the creation frequency. because I was in the Akasha, I was in timelines. It was something greater than me and this body and this journey. It was this body and this journey in relation to the universe and where I can go and what I can do and the things that I can work in. So it's a different space. Psilocybin is beautiful for personal work and personal healing and personal journey. And this one just took it 8 levels up and it's like, all right, well, let's look at you in relation to the thing that you came from. let's see how you work with source. Like, okay. So different states of consciousness are different, but different dimensions, vibrations, whatever you want to call it. It was different.
Densities.
Yeah, thank you. That's the word.
So we're doing our outro, and people need to know about where to get in touch with you and how to, if it's still even available to the public, how to join the Church of the Sacred Synthesis.
Yeah, it's definitely still available. I will say there's actually been a lot of great things, because with any kind of challenge or controversy, that's how we grow. That's how we grow. That's how we expand. That's how we know ourselves better. That's how we stand more in our truth. So there's been a lot that's come out of it that has been positive for us. And that was our messaging and what we want to offer. And so the Sacred Synthesis is the site right now. It was originally that's what the church is filed under, the Church of the Sacred Synthesis. Like even the year before, they started with Psilomethoxin just because teaching people what it was, but reverted back to the Church of the Sacred Synthesis, or our original name, just because that's more in line of what we're actually doing and the greater picture of what we want to create and do. The merging of science and spirituality and all that fun stuff. So it's thesacredsynthesis.com. And there is a little apply there. We do prefer member-to-member referrals, but anybody can apply. It's just if you don't have a member referral, just make sure you answer the questions as to the best of your ability, because that's how we're meeting you. And we just want to make sure that it's the best place for you, and that you'll benefit from it. So there is an application right on the website, and you can always email us at info@thesacredsynthesis.com as well. That's our main contact email. So we have that available for everybody. And I'm usually myself or one other, when you're emailing the church, it's me. So yeah. That's how you get in touch. And yeah, we welcome applications. Like I said, we're really trying to offer as much to the community, the sacrament included, but we want connection. We want a community that feels safe to come on and learn and grow and be together. So there's lots of different stuff that we're offering and that we will be offering in the upcoming months. So yeah, please check us out.
Please do. And if you're not ready to join the church and you just happen to be in Arizona, please reach out. I'm a member and I love sharing sacrament, and I love doing it in a ceremonial setting, keeping an eye on you first time. We do it in Sweat Lodge and things like that.
Yeah, highly recommend finding someone local. And we are also switching our membership model to like a monthly program. So it's like $11.11 a month starting this week. And you don't have to order sacrament to be a member of the church. Like I said, we have a calendar full of cool offerings. We have a community to connect to. So even if you just wanted to go on because you want to do breath work every Friday, that's cool too. You can come on.
Yeah, I haven't yet jumped into one of those. I want to jump into one of those breath works, and then the Science Saturdays is what you guys do?
Yeah.
Describe what that is, because I'm curious.
Our resident genius chemist, physicist, Adam McKay, who is helping us develop our reference sample for our sacrament to test it and to confirm, and going down that rabbit hole with it. So he is one of the smartest people I have ever met, and he will go in depth on all things science and entheogens and fractals and whatever you can think of in this space that's really cool. He wants to talk about it. So you have an open channel and direct communication to the person who's really developing our molecule for us at the church. So he's just a really neat person to speak with.
Nice. Yeah, I'll get involved. What's the membership like now? What are your numbers?
Good question. I think it's around like 1,600.
Okay, still pretty small.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, it's less than a year and it exploded and then it kind of paused and gave us a thing. And I'm here for the ride. I'm here to just see where we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
first breaths.
and it's just, this is an opportunity for everybody to join us on an adventure. You know, this is new. This is as far as what we're trying to do is not new. Like I said, my husband's helped form over 60 entheogenic churches across the US. So the exploration of that is new, but the model in which we're doing it and really trying to promote cognitive liberty and religious freedom and our right to explore our own consciousness and our right to practice our spirituality in the way that's best for us is what we're on this adventure together on. So you know, open invite to come on this ride with us.
It's not quite Mr. Toad's, but maybe
a little bit.
You could compare it to that. And I hope that you're there because I am, and it's fun so far.
Yeah, I mean, just anybody who wants to answer, and we have Sunday service every other week, but we're not dogmatic. We're not like a preaching, you have to feel this way, you have to think this way. We're asking the questions and we're looking at history and you know, what's going on now and what are the plants teaching us of who are we and why are we here and what does all this mean? And so they're just fun philosophical questions that we're asking and maybe don't have all the answers for, but it's fun to look at.
Yeah. And Pastor Chuck, I hope he gets on the show soon. I've been talking with him. Man, he's become such a funny friend, and I can kind of razz him a little bit. And it rolls right off. And he's just like, well, I'm from the South and I'm formerly Christian and I love you too. It's like, wow.
Yeah, he's a character and we love him and we're just so grateful for him. He's just a brilliant mind. He's a scholar. He's a religious scholar, and in that knows, you know, it's not just Christianity. He's studied all religions across the globe, and so he's like there are so many things that are common to everything, and you know, why is that? Why does every religion have this certain idea? Well, maybe because that's a universal truth. And so, you know, taking the dogma out of it and looking for the truth in it, so that he's really good at that.
Yeah, I venerate him for that because I have some fun Bible quotes once in a while, and I'm like, could you explain that? And he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, sending love to Chuck.
Yes. All right. Jenna Lake, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, and other saints and sages of all time and space. This is Jenna for the Church of the Sacred Synthesis, signing off. Any final words of parting?
No, just thank you. You know, grateful for you too, for creating this space and supporting us and doing your own work. So super grateful for you. Thank you.
Oh, all my relations in a good way. This is Hugh T ALKEMI and EntheoRadio signing out.